It looks like we're live. We're live. Yeah. Okay. Oh, come on now.
Johnny, sound cheerful?
Oh, always, yeah. Reasons to be cheerful.
It's interesting to live. It's interesting to live. No matter how you look at it, it's a privilege and it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, Bronwyn.
Sorry, a bit tired.
That's alright. Gladys, Doug, Ashley, Rob, and take a seat wherever you want. Yeah.
So you still might have a couple of rollers. It's time to get rolling.
It's definitely time to get rolling. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame on Thundercloud. Mum calls me James. Welcome to all the people out there in Facebook Live land and on YouTube and all around the world and bits of Australia, this land now called Australia. And on that note, we'll start by acknowledging the traditional custodians and of this land that we present tonight's poetry session from, and all of the First Nations people all around the place now called Australia, and the continuing connection of the elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. Well, I've got a few things for myself to read out tonight. I'll also be reading out later on. So a few verses from Tug Darmley's Sun Songs, which was released, I think, in 2019. And this one here, robust, ribald and rude verse in Australia, selected and annotated by Bill Wannon. Published in 1972. I picked this one up a few weeks ago in Inverell in the Orpheus bookstore, over there.
Gosh, that's a name I haven't heard for a long time, Bill Wannon. A very famous name, actually.
All right.
Amongst ethnologists and antiquarians involved with South East Queensland and folklore.
Okay, well, he's got a good selection of stuff in there.
Yeah, he was great. He was a great scholar.
All right. Well, the first one I'm going to start off with is, keeping it clean, because it won't be later. A one-legged horse.
Oh, right, James?
There once was a one-legged horse who wasn't welcome on any race course. And every day this horse was found with kids on his back, hopping in the playground. The one-legged horse, whose name was Pogo, would try everything and give it a go. He'd play and have fun. He'd hop in the sun. He was everyone's friend. He entertained everyone. Oh Pogo, you give it a go. Oh Pogo, you put on a show. Oh Pogo, you have a great gift. Oh Pogo, you make our spirits lift. He was a real horse, and he wasn't a toy with only one leg he'd play and enjoy. Life with one leg because it was his gift to make people happy and give spirits a lift. He'd hop and he'd spring because this was his thing. He was a good dancer and he could sing. One day sitting at home, he got a letter invited to the racecourse. He felt so much better. Oh Pogo, you give it a go. Oh Pogo, you put on a show. Oh Pogo, you have a great gift. Oh Pogo, you make our spirits lift. Dear Pogo, please come and show us your tricks. You can represent us at the Paralympics. We're sorry we banned you. Our judgment was sin. Please teach us to hop. We know you can win. At the Paralympics, he was feeling pumped. He won the triple, the long, and the high jump. One-legged horse skating with original tricks. Pogo was a hit at the Paralympics. Oh Pogo, you give it a go, oh Pogo, you put on a show, oh Pogo, you have a great gift, oh Pogo. You make all our spirits lift. The moral of the story, you guessed it, of course, never ride off a one-legged horse. Every life is valuable and everyone has a gift. With 4 gold medals, he made all spirits lift.
Oh, James.
Yeah, I tried to sell that to the Paralympic Committee, but they weren't interested. So anyway, I'll keep the rights to it, and yeah, it's mine now. Because, like, you know what they did when they, the Billy T lady bought Banjo's song. She all changed his song around. Yeah, you know about that, don't you, Rob?
Yeah, I know all that.
Yeah, the original Waltzing Matilda. Oh, hair in my mouth. He wasn't a jolly swagman. He was swagman. He was just he once was a swagman. He wasn't camped by a billabong. He was camped in the billabong. And troopers didn't come down. 3 policemen came down in the original song.
And he didn't say, "You'll never catch me alive."
Probably not.
No.
No.
Oh, well, she improved. To my eye, Troopers has got good weight without being too heavy.
Yeah. But Troopers was something that they used way long before. Oh, g'day, Paul. Welcome.
They've always used Troopers under some circumstance in the bush. They've called them in specially to murder. Yeah.
Well, that's well, see, this is the what do you call it? The controversy about it, because Banjo at the time was engaged to the daughter of one of the people in the legal firm that he worked for, and he'd been engaged for 8 years.
The Tenterfield girl?
No. I got where is it? We starts with W up there.
He married the Tenterfield girl.
Well, he didn't. Yeah, but the one up there he didn't.
Before that. Oh, that's right.
And he he.
Now I remember.
They broke up. Apparently, maybe he was flirting with someone else. But anyway, he destroyed his relationship in the legal firm. And anyway, he went on to bigger and greater things as a war correspondent. And at that time, there was a lot of problem with the shearers and the swaggies, and it's possibly believed that he was telling a sort of a tale without naming the neighbours of this family whose daughter he was engaged to sort of give a hint that, yeah, maybe that particular swagman had been murdered by the policeman and the squatter.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So it's not so romantic. And then the other part, well, Waltzing Matilda is interesting because back there were a lot of Germans around in the out doing the swagman bit, and their Matilda was their bedroll. Now that goes back to the days of conquering and wars and stuff, where the soldiers would all go marching, and there would be a bunch of prostitutes that would follow them around, and they were called Matildas or Matilde. So waltzing your Matilda would be carrying your swag because you didn't have your hooker with you at the time. So that's where the origin of that is. So yeah, and I got my dad to thank for sending me that information. Thanks, Dougie, out there. Much appreciated. That's my dad's name, Doug. So yeah, that's all right. This next one is about a unicorn, not just any unicorn, a rainbow zebra unicorn, and it's called Polly the Rainbow Zebra Unicorn. Another kind of kids one. Polly the Rainbow Zebra Unicorn was born with a 1 metre unicorn horn. His zebra stripes were the colour of a rainbow. His horn grew big and began to glow. Polly's horn grew big and red and throbbing and swollen on his head. In pain he squeezed with all his might, so much all his stripes turned
Can
black
I be just excused for a moment?
and white.
I'm going to just measure your tablecloth.
Yeah, okay.
I'll do it while you're on it.
Yeah,
So
start that again.
All right, I'll start again.
Don't worry, it's only 30, 20 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. It's much longer than that. Take two. Polly the rainbow zebra unicorn was born with a 1 metre unicorn horn. His zebra stripes began with the colour of the rainbow, and his horn grew big and began to glow. Polly's horn grew big and red and throbbing and swollen on his head. In pain he squeezed with all his might, so much his stripes turned black and white. He pulled until his horn fell off. It never grew back, it was his loss. Polly now looked like a zebra, so he changed his name to Deborah. Deborah, the zebra, took a Bex. Some friends asked, "Have you changed sex?" Deborah replied, "I don't know, I pulled my horn off and it won't regrow. I need the Bex for my headache. I'm a zebra now, for goodness sake. I wish I were the colour of the rainbow and my one horn would regrow." Suddenly, Deborah regrew a horn, and Deborah became a rainbow unicorn. And then all over he began to glow. His stripe turned back to the colour of the rainbow. The moral of the story, listen to this, is that you can never take away a unicorn's wish. And a hornless unicorn, like a zebra, is still Polly the unicorn, not Deborah the zebra. Now, this one's got no name. I haven't named this one. A bird without wings will do a lot of walking. A man without a tongue won't do any talking. A dog without legs will just sit. And if you don't eat food, it's likely you won't shit. The earth without the sun is like a man without a brain, and a blue sky without clouds won't carry any rain. A car without wheels is going nowhere, and if you are a bald man, you can't have dreadlock hair. A fish out of water will quickly become dead, and if you are a lobotomy is where they cut some brain from your head. A slug with a shell is known as a snail, and a whale with a hunch is a humpback whale.
Rain cat.
A man with a shovel is known as Doug, and a snail without a shell is also called a slug. A man made of snow is called a snowman. Boil plum sugar water and you get plum jam. If you swim in the toilet, it's likely you'll stink, and everybody's lips are a different shade of pink. Another name for a rooster is, of course, a cock, and if you want to know the time, then you look at a clock. And roosters in the morning crow cock-a-doodle-doo. A toilet is a place where you're supposed to do a poo, and a carpenter has tools and he likes to hammer nails. Apple tastes different to echidna snails and whales. And whatever you're doing, when you're finished, you'll be done. I'm grateful that you're all here. Let's have a bit of fun.
Oh, excellent jobs.
That's it. So they were written early on in the year, this year. Now I'm going to go back to 5 days ago. Have you ever heard of an elephant weevil? Probably not. It's a pretty ugly animal. It's beautiful, really. Its mum loves it. Anyway, look it up, and I might be able to show you a photo later. I woke up one morning and there in my sink was a very strange animal that made me think, and I asked it a question. "How do you do? Can you please tell me what animal are you?" It had a long nose and it was a little bit hairy and 6 legs and mottled, and it looked quite scary, and it said to me, "I'm an elephant weevil, my name is Jimmy and I'm not evil. I eat citrus, eucalyptus, peaches and grapes, but I'm not a big fan of ice cream on crepes. Grape growers hate that I eat their vine crops, so I'm an elephant weevil and the bark is tops." It was the strangest insect that I ever saw. He swaggered away towards my front door. He turned his head and said, "I'm an elephant weevil. My full name is James Arthur Evil Knievel.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, I use my own name in there a bit, so yeah, alright. Now, look, I'm going to move on, and there's, I'm going to read a little bit out of Tug Dumley's book from 1991. To James, good to see you. Best, Tug Dumley.
He's a mysterious bugger, Tom.
He's really
Tug Dumley.
good. He's I think
Mysterious
he's
man.
3 times winner of the Nimbin Performance Poetry World Cup, which was just on last weekend. So congratulations to all the finalists in there. I think David Hallett was one, Vince Stead, and a bunch of others, 10 others. So, yeah. And so moving on to that, I got this from Tug at Nimbin. He came for a book launch. This is one called Sunday Morning Walk in Nimbin. Along the lane, under the tree that killed it, a car. Airbags exploded, passenger door burping to the cows. I give it a forensic. Recent, but not totally fresh. No cobwebs yet though. Stereo and hubcaps jacked. Nose punched into a V by the tree, scraps of police tape. Probably not fatal, pretty intact. But who am I to judge true impact? There's a salting of glass on the floor, a kid's book, some burnt CDs, and coins. Like the coins I found as a kid on the floor of that wreck in the police impound that backed onto the primary school, the ones I stole and washed the blood off and used to buy a flying fox. My mother turned me into the cops, I confessed. Funny thing, she didn't suspect. There was no need to spill. It was a seamless crime. But then I've got this confessional streak a mile wide. Always have felt compelled to tell, to split the proceeds of a guilty conscience. Some might see that as noble. I've come to see it more as attention-seeking by other means. I leave the coins this time, though there's maybe enough for a coffee. But I've learnt something about consequences, karma, and the kind of guilt you perversely befriend. I'm not really all that zen, but hey man, this is Nimbin, and I'm 50, not 10.
Show the viewers that nice photo of Tug,
That's
so
him.
they get a
man.
good view of him.
That's what it looks like.
He's got a most amazing face, I think.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Can I-
I knew him as a young man when he was just getting started,
Yeah.
25 years ago.
Well, he used to be on, was that on Triple J or something like that?
He used to read down in the pub too.
okay.
Yeah.
Alright, this next one's about the Old Testament. I prefer God's funny old stuff. I prefer God's funny old stuff to his new stuff. His Old Testament hijinks. The Cain and Abel homicide. Locust plagues. Rains of blood. Screw Hollywood. Back then, God was Hollywood. And Christ, could he direct? A sea to swallow Pharaoh's army, Babylon burning, that fire, that flood. All genres, action, drama, romance, the suspense of fake son sacrifice, dirty, weird sex of daughters fucking their drunk dad. Oh yeah, God put the sin in sin-ematic. He was the G in CGI, no special effects required. But his old stuff's miles better than his new stuff. All that pussy New Testament crap about turning the other cheek. Nah, turn the other ass cheek. For a God who smites sodomites, turns women to condiments, a God who engineers shit, just so he can set up retribution, vigilante vendettas, high noon showdowns, a John Wayne God, a Chuck Norris God, a Dirty Harry God, a Republican Party actor God, who settles scores old school, a God who understands the principles of drama, a psychotic, jealous Jehovah, howling for vengeance, spewing blood and fire, wrath and righteous fury, a God who schizophrenically swings between smiling and smiting, who wipes out whole tribes like a child frying ants under a magnifying glass. Now that's border protection. That's the stuff people want. A big arena spectacular God with all the extras left dead. A show to get the punters sending rivers of terrified piss cascading down the stadium aisles. Okay, if you must, give Christ a cameo, some cross sponsorship, bend the crucifix fixed to a pair of golden arches. For a closer, well, that's a natural. The rapture, revelation, apocalypse, big bang finish. Yeah, I know it's from the new book too, but come on, the whore. All those multi-eyed mescaline breasts. Such a lovely old school ring. So come on, people, let's do this show. We can't lose this thing. I mean, who's going to ask for refunds? Suckers.
Have you got the year he wrote that?
Yeah,
Roughly.
in 2018 it was published.
17, 16, 17.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
I have heard him read that one out, so I sort of really kind of got into the flow of how he would deliver that. Yeah.
I liked your version though, fairy instead of pharaoh. I saw fairies drowning in the purple sea.
Yeah. Okay.
Sin-e-matic. Boom boom. What a poem, bloody hell.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Brecht would have loved that. Bertolt Brecht.
This is called Found Poem Kuma. How sweet to find a poem in the footpath that doesn't start and end with Shaylee sucks and was here. But there it was, etched with a conviction to outweather decades. Shane rocks the world, and all the pretty girls can rest upon the knee of Jesus. Enigmatic, evocative, demanding to be puzzled at. Who was the Shane who so boldly carved this rune in the concrete of Akuma Street? A modern marvel. One who, having spent his rhetorical stock, failing to coax from his mistress her chastity, was now washing his hands of the whole flock, saving themselves for the Saviour's knee. That knee, that's what got me. Not in the Lord's arms or bosom was, will all the pretty girls be blessed but rest upon the knee of Jesus? A cracked world joined in a small word, stressed. It had been a bleak day, shame, 6-hour drive from Sydney, hungover and haunted by murderous semis clocking the monotonous mounds of roadkill I was trying not to become. I checked in, the lone guest of a Bates motel, and took a walk through the alpine dusk, armed with a bottle of rough red in defence against the cold and my own company. Sought the church where my mother grew, maybe seeking something of myself in the impossible gap of years, in the melancholy proximity to my flesh's past. I found no trace of the minister's daughter, but I did find your poem, Shane, a little wonder in my path. I studied the words in the dying light, tried to riddle out the narrative of you, the pretty girls, and Jesus, but at best could only second guess. You lent me a spark. In years to come, your blazon will remain testament to a man of fire and heart. Decades down, others may stop and wonder, ponder your puzzle with conjecture and rumour. Who was this Shane who rocked the world? Enigmatic street scribe of Cooma.
Ooh.
Shane rocks the world, and all the pretty girls can rest upon the knee of Jesus.
Hallelujah! Amen! I have felt the kneecap.
I feel you, brother. I feel you.
Yeah. Well,
I remember when I read that, I thought, God, felt the music.
yeah. Would you like to come on up, Ashley?
I don't know if I would really. No, I didn't mean that. It's just, I decided to start with something that
Ashley Albanese.
I failed to salute our brethren across the Tasman the other night with James K. Baxter, so he'll start with me. I don't like this poem, but that's not the point. We all have paintings, music, poems, people that we don't really like, but we can be quite wound to and aware of. As I'm getting to know Baxter's work, I'm surprised at the amount that deals with war. Surprised. This poem is Elegy for an Unknown Soldier. There was a time when I would magnify his ending, scatter words as if I wept, tears not my own but man's. There was a time, but not now so, he died of a common sickness. Nor did any new star shine upon that day when he came crying out of fleshy darkness to a world of pain, and waxen eyelids let the daylight enter. So felt and tasted, found earth good enough. Later he played with stones and wondered if there was land beyond the dark sea rim and where the road led out of the farthest paddock. Awkward at school, he could not master sums. Could you expect him then to understand the miracle and menace of his body that grew as mushrooms grow from dusk to dawn? He had the weight, though, for a football scrum, and thought it fine to listen to the cheering and drink beer with the boys, telling them tall stories of girls that he had never known. So, when the war came, he was glad and sorry, but soon enlisted. Then his mother cried a little, and his father boasted how he'd let him go, though needed for the farm. Likely in Egypt, he would find out something about himself, if flies and drunkenness and deadly heat could tell him much. Until, in his first battle, a shell splinter caught him. So, crown him with memorial bronze among the older dead, child of a mountainous island, wings of a tarnished victory, shadow him who, born of silence, has burned back to silence. He's a powerful writer, Baxter. Well, as it's Christmas, I thought I'd bring along my 3 rulers. One for hypothesis, one for implications, and one for parameters. So you can take that triadic to that poem and think accordingly. Now, I sat in a bookshop and I had access to some of Les Murray's later poems, which I hadn't read. But having met him on the New England, I realised that he was with it and loved to be boosted by the granite. And I wrote down a poem that he published, On the Borders. Carsonet published this, Les Murray New Collected Poems in '03, and it's from Poems the Size of Photographs of 2002. We're driving across the tableland. Somewhere in the world, it is almost bare of trees. Upland, near void of features, always moves me, but not to thought. It lets me rest from thought. It lets me rest from thinking. I feel no need to interpret it, as if it were art. Too much of poetry is criticism now. That hawk clinging to the eaves of the wind, beating its third wing, its tail, isn't mine to sell. And here is more like the space that needs to exist around an image. This cloud roof country reminds me of the character of people who first encounter roses in soap. And this moved my heart. I sat and thought about the different scenarios that dimension up out of this small scatter of words that he wrote about the turn of this century. It's called A Countryman. Yeah, I get very upset, really. And I've noticed when I've read it to people over the last week, they too get upset. Let's be upset. On the long flats north of the river, an elder in a leather jacket is hitchhiking to his daughter's funeral. I went to a poetry club at Armidale last night, and I wrote this, and I think somehow, if you squeeze the sponge of Les's poems that I wrote down, the flavour of the feel came through into this. Heaven's rain, straight into Dangar's lagoon, or mother of ducks. Do the grey-white, greened humps of granite loom to think? Dare to, how far from, eroding away? Holidays from New England splay the white sandy reach, thinking that the tide may bear them away, coming in. Beat back on the tableland. Beach towels, hats, umbrellas, packed in, awaiting households away. The ebbs slip, sounds the tides beyond, the next jaunt by the unforgiving sea. That second stanza should go. Back on the tableland, beach towels, hats, umbrellas, and the ebbs slip, sounding of the tide beyond. The next jaunt to the unforgiving sea. And I then went on. This morning I got up and I tapped the computer and someone had sent this poem in. So I wrote it down. There it is, and I'll stick it up on my wall. because I thought it deserved a kiss. Yes, there we are, with a kiss. And I wrote 7 poems generated from this afternoon, sitting up looking down on the Mother of Duck Lagoon. The poem is by Li Bai from the Tang Dynasty, and then I've got 7 short poems that reflect. The bright sun dips below the hill. Water of the yellow river towards the sea flows. You wish to keep them ever in sight. Ever higher are the mountains for that goal. And these are my little ditties for the Tang. I hope they have some tang. Leaving at sunrise, the mountain mist almost wets my sleeve. Walking, sitting by the bank now, mid-afternoon, the water slows and spreads towards the bar. The next one, then there is another one. He didn't look back, light dipping behind the hill, but lengthening shadows told him ahead. It became the fashion to build towers, ever topping to ever more elevated metaphysics, to be seen and spoken of. Between sips, I remember the sweat on the foundation builder's brow. 4th one. It did become the fashion to build towers. The Chinese have had quite a mania for actually going up the top of towers and perusing and philosophising, chanting songs to the gods, like the Sumerian pyramids, I suppose, of clay. The clay pyramids hardly survive now, and the great bulk of the fashionable towers dropped away to oblivion also. Just before dawn, I think, in the grey milk tincture light of the Mid-Valley Bridge crosses, at noon, yonder towards the other bank. Some stop in that moment, of course. They ruminate, sliding beneath them. They see the way. Water's the thing. Occasionally, on heel turning, no glance anywhere which ways, passer-bys return to the way they came. And the old farmer looks towards the summit. Not enough time to put in a crop up at the top. But, picnicking with monks as a young villager, he remembers a sunrise into sunset. And the last one of this little click of images, awareness of life through awareness of death, enduring as we must such pristine clarity, where one often wishes not. And many a Japanese heart must have that perception, I think. Anyway, the last one. If one climbs forever, is one going up? No matter, that resoluteness demands a mindfulness. And I'll finish with the mysteries of language. I think that's all I had for tonight. Oh no, I've got a letter from John and Ono. Mr. Albanese, a Christmas letter. I would have been sad if I missed a Christmas salute from Bazza the Baz to John and Ono. Mr. Albanese, please thank our Christmas auditors for bearing with the sometimes visionary fortifications of Comrade Bazza the Baz. I call him that so tonight because I'm encouraging him to get off the Bible onto the Maoist library left to him by his late aunt Rosalind Gominder, spelt I-E, Gominder. If we can put Baz to a classic training in the material dialectic, we may be able to contain his messianic outbursts. I was truly embarrassed late evening when he was admonished from the shadows of the Armadale post office by a citizen passing by, I presume passing by, perturbed by his histrionic readings from the book of Job. Or I surmised, does that citizen of Armadale go to that corner when secretly Bazza the Baz comes to salute the Lord with his quiet tribal talk. I was disturbed and felt his reading that night that we discussed 2 weeks back was not Christ's Mass applicable. So next year I will abjure the Baz. He needs to develop ideas more focused on acceptable social interchange to be cast abroad by this device. You're the device, and it goes up magic to the turning orbs and shoots back down to earth to us auditors. And as I was perusing the Beatty Street Mall with Baz DeSavo, he observed germanely, "See that Services New South Wales van over there? That office on wheels?" I nodded in assent. "Yes, I do, Bazza." "Well, it's going to go farther west, starting from Guyra next week." "So, Baz, so. What?" He raised his eyes to me, that imploring look of grandeur. "No, John, no. I wish to say..." "Go ahead, Baz, go on, say." "Well, I am pleased that Sydney Service New South Wales contractors have chosen a photo mural that is stimulating and aspiring." "What do you mean?" I said. "Aspiring inspired?" "Well, when the Services New South Wales Government mobile parks, the vast swathes soon of Maori ivory cotton bloom will be near its hubcaps. Its bright red and pink, surmounted white by an abstract Waratah logo, will seduce the rural dwellers of Good Moree into a truly visual excitement of response." Bazza started to be truly exhortatory. "And when they see the sweeping waters of the boat-laden Upper Hawkesbury, the keels swinging to anchor awaiting a sail down south and then through the Sydney Harbour Heads to do a drift past the sails of Herr Utsun, turning towards a packed fling at Barangaroo Casino, whirring of neon pocket screens, pokey screens, near where the Nulla Nulla and Boomerang once whistled, this wall-side photo mural, portrayed here in its splendour on the side of Service New South Wales, Travelling Office, will bedeck our awareness. We will be visualising us bush folk, yay, symbolising where both should be and could be, all of us, inspired and living, right to the sail, to the float of the tide, unhindered, freely sovereign, on the tides of our beloved Sydney Harbour. We can all go there, John and Ono. And this image brought to the bush people shows us where the tide of things can sweep us. That mural image sublime signals to us all. Work hard, efficient in the tracks of the bush, and you may too have a Hawkesbury destiny of a floatingness, keels under the starry glory, bannered of the Southern Cross. Well, for sure to broadcast my thanks, Jono, be sure. John and Ono, no to Sydney's wisdom in stimulating us to rural denizens to hard work, competitive commitments, so we may find our mission, retired in tidal splendour to the oceanic encompassing of our eastern seaboard. This can be our fate. This can be the glory of our continent. Basil lit himself up with this. He got quite resplendent with all his Anglo realm piratical forebears vibrating and showing forth from him. Is that your Christmas salute for the Guyra Poets Hall of Fame in this year of our Lord 2021, Basil the Baz? Is that your lament? It is, young John. No. Well, I shall leave your thoughts so for Wednesday night's auditions. And Basil replied, yes, do. Oh, one more thing. Had a whole pile this Christmas. When I go up and sit around looking at the mountains, I might write a little book that's been in my mind for a long time. Anyway, that's another story. Just to show you how tricky language can be. This is a very popular poem. I'll do it in my popular French. And then it's easy to translate until you get to one word. One of the reasons I'm reading it is the one word. And I'm sure you could get your microscope out endlessly on the word montre de doigt. which is really untranslatable. Anyway, this is the poem, Dimanche, by Jacques Prévert. Entre les rangées d'arbres de l'avenue des Gobelins, une statue de marbre me conduit par la main. Aujourd'hui, c'est dimanche, les cinémas sont pleins. L'oiseau dans les branches regardant les humains. Et la statue m'embrasse mes personnes. Nous nous voit, sauf un enfant aveugle qui nous montre du doigt. Now, it's a simple poem. It suddenly struck me I'm reading in a cinema on top of the granite ridge of the eastern seaboard. And in English it says, and this is where translation really becomes very difficult. The poem is very simple, simple to translate in some sense, but suddenly it glues onto this one word, montre. Between the trees of the Gobelin Avenue, where to the side across different centuries there were many tapestries woven, warp and woof, though French people would know that, though the poem doesn't say that, though it does. A statue of marble I'm carrying in my hands. Today is Sunday and the cinemas are full. Well, there are questions then, aren't there? The cinemas are full. But is Paris full of people carrying shop window dummies or marble statues? And the birds in the branches look at us human beings. Well, the ones who are left to be part of nature, looking at nature perching, looking back down at us. But most of us, including me, because I'm a cinema fanatic, or used to be when I was young, really want to be in this hall here, watching a movie, having reality put up our eyeballs in a artificial way. And the statue I embrace, the poem goes on, the birds are in the branches looking at us human beings. And the statue I'm kissing, or it's kissing me. I'm having this degree of involvement with the artificial, but no one can see this. Mais personne ne nous voit. And a blind child, or a kiddie who's blind, is pointing at me with his finger. But if anyone is interested, just go get all your books out on vocabulary and look at what montre de doigt can mean in terms of the pressings of meaning that you could squeeze out of the sponge of that little poem. So I'll go through it just quickly once more. He's a very popular writer, Jacques Prévert. He was and is very popular, and there's a lot of depth in his simplicity. Entre les rangées d'arbres de l'avenue de Gobelin, une statue de marbre me conduit par la main. Aujourd'hui, c'est dimanche, les cinémas sont pleins. L'oiseau dans les branches regardant les humains, et la statue m'embrasse et me personne. Nous nous voit, sauf un enfant aveugle qui nous montre du doigt.
That might translate as two fields.
It's a lot of it, I just think, because mantra is really strange, isn't it, in that poem?
I think that translates to two fields or two paddocks.
Strange, isn't it? I worked out 4 or 5 ways of looking at it, and each time the poem changes profoundly.
James,
Yeah.
for a parchment and some coffee.
Okay. All right. Small, hot, no sugar.
Yeah.
All right. I'll do one. I'll get Gladys up here.
Yes.
After I do this one, I'd written 24 hours ago, a white egret and a black swan were fishing one day while a heron on a log was looking kind of grey, and as I walked along 2 ducks flew away and a flock of straw-necked ibis flew and didn't stay. That's it. Written down by the mother of ducks.
Read that again.
24 hours ago, that one, while I was walking by the lagoon. A white egret and a black swan were fishing one day while a heron on a log was looking kind of grey, and as I walked along 2 ducks flew away and a flock of straw-necked ibis flew and didn't stay. There's pictures to go with it, but I won't show you. So Gladys Wilson, everyone.
While all
Welcome.
the people are stuck in the cinema.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's lovely to have you all in here this afternoon. And This is one I wrote some time back. It's called Haven Rest, and a nursing home I think is Rest Haven. This is back the other way.
Yeah, paper cup. Sorry, Gladys.
No, you're fine. You've got to have your coffee. Anyway, this is just Haven Rest. The historic homestead is surrounded by the beauty of tall pine trees, and late in the evening, all sway to a gentle breeze. But this stately old manor has stood silent over many years. Now to see the once grand masterpiece would bring you all to tears. The doormat that said welcome, looking all shabby and worn, left there and forgotten, only to sadly mourn. A polished marble staircase that was kept so spruce and neat now stands alone in silence, no longer the patter of feet. The chandelier that brightly lit up that large hallway nearly every night, now covered in dust and cobwebs, where once would shine a light. A rusty windmill squeaks and rattles from the howling winds at night, while the silvery moon sailing above shines a guiding light. Weeping willows along the creek bed gracefully bend and sigh, as the river in all its glory peacefully flows on by. As daylight hours draw to a close and evening shadows fall, the only sound that you will hear is from a night owl's call. A bell that never rings, and walls sound out their eerie cry, as the faded curtains on the windows wave their last goodbye. The old homestead, once thought by many as nothing but the best, and weary travellers all passing through just call it Haven Rest. Now this one here, this is Road Map of Life. And I wrote this on just not such a great while back. A road map of life. Our lives are like a road map, with many twists and turns. As we follow the winding pathway, there's still much more to learn. But the journey in life, of course, is a challenge that's now placed in our hands to guide us through good and bad times as this great universe expands. There are many bends we must navigate on this never-ending road as you share together the burden to lighten a heavy load. Now, in this ever-changing world, we still should have a choice to stand up and be counted, or speak with just one voice. Even sometimes, though, we need to stay strong and take comfort from those around us when little things go wrong. Never take our time on earth for granted, and as one very wise man once said, and always be aware of the warning signs ahead. But Father Time waits for no one. He knows the reason why, as the old clock on the mantelpiece keeps ticking as each day passes by. As we all look forward to a brighter future, that's part of our master plan. So let's stand together united to do the best we can.
It's taken me a little while to get like that one into my head, but that was probably the best reading that I've ever really understood of that one. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
What's that one, Jones?
That piece of poetry, like I've heard it a number of times, but often I've been like a bit preoccupied. And funnily enough, while I was making that coffee, I really heard it for the first time.
This one here.
That one,
Yeah,
Road Back Alive.
Yeah.
Haven Rest I've heard before. Now, after this, Doug, would you like to come up next?
I just got a little one.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no,
all right.
it'd be nice to have you.
What do you call it? A hika.
Yeah.
Haiku.
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 All right.
We'll have to sing some songs next year, Doug. I want some
Sing
songs
next week?
for us to sing next year.
Oh, wow.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, I told you last time I'm an amateur and a lineup.
Yeah, make like me. Don't worry about it.
All poets are amateurs because
You've got to
they're
start
beginning
somewhere.
with the word.
Thank you. Do you have to have a title for a haiku?
No.
Okay. I strive to be brief. Explanation contaminates. I have arrived at the impossible.
Meditation on being a duck. Free. Flying free over a forest. Swimming on a lake. Diving for fish. Water rolls off my back. No expensive home that's like a prison. No expensive car which is as good as trash. No masks, not locked down. No smartphones or phone bills, just duck bills, just being a duck. No work, no agenda, no media, no fear, just being a duck. No time like the present. No shoes, no time. Quack, quack, quacking in the bush, being a duck. No sport, no sausage sizzle, no Christmas, flying free, simple life, abundant, without want or need, being a duck. That's it.
It's ironic that you could deliver a lecture in philosophy and talk about not quack, but qua, duck, qua, and it has a whole meaning that you could build a lecture up already.
Yeah.
The being of the duck as duck's being. That's what it means. And it's often used because a good example of words, qua, can mean all of that. But not quack.
Alright, this one's called Enough. You are enough, and you've nothing to prove. If you want, you can sing, dance, and get into the groove. There's no one you need to impress, and you are free to do what you love, including just sit and be. You can set your goals, which are difficult and tough, but you've nothing to prove because you are enough. If there are times your life seems a train wreck or disaster, remember you're growing, and it takes time to self-master. Some roads are smooth and some rocky and rough. Hard roads make us tough, and you are more than enough. To live life with a smile and a positive attitude, for the easy times and hard times, to have gratitude. And one more before I invite Rob up. This is a little meditation on depression. Depression is oppression not dealt with. If you don't contend with oppression, depression grows big. Oppression by others and oppression by yourself, when you become a creator, it improves your mental health. Doing what you'd love to do, like climbing from a hole, reaching for the heights and the mountain top, your goal. Oppression by your fears of judgment by others, programmed to do as you're told by society, partners, mothers. Do as your heart tells you and let your intuition flow. Create the life you want, but hey, what the fuck do I know? Depression is oppression not contended with. Not dealing with oppression makes depression grow big. do I know? Rob. Rob.
Okay.
Yeah, did you want one? Yeah, sure, how to take it. Okay, right. No sugar though.
I'm going to do a couple of songs that me and my dad wrote. He wrote most of the words, and I wrote the music.
Is this the egg boy?
Yeah, Egg Finder.
Egg finder, excellent.
Yeah, this is about my youngest brother, who's 12 years younger than me. It's called The Egg Finder. He's the youngest in the family. Okay, the Egg Finder. Little light in shining dramas, namesake of great Alexander, with a bound to face life's dramas. Why explore neath our veranda? Seek you there to slay Darth Vader in your role of Jedi errant. Thought around storm took invader, marauding past to Harris Parent. Postpone your play as Vader, slay a knight, bend your steps to cash of life. You alone are sole advisor of your other role of finder. The Egg Finder. If from bed and early rise up, free of tutelage or minder, you alone are sole advisor of your other role of finder. This is where the drama thickens, though the frost around us crackles. Superannuated chickens signal hidden eggs with cackles. Postpone your play as Vader slayer, bend your steps to cash of layer. You alone are sole advisor of your other role of finder. The Egg Finder. Little light in shining dramas, namesake of great Alexander, with a bound to face life's dramas. Why explore neath our veranda? Seek you there to slay Darth Vader in your role of Jedi errant. Thought around storm took invader, marauding past to Harris Parent. Postpone your play as Vader, slay a knight, bend your steps to cash and layer. You alone are sole advisor of your other role of finder. The Egg Finder. The Egg Finder. The Egg Finder. this is where the drama thickens. Though the frost around us crackles, superannuated chickens signal hidden eggs with cackles. No smoke, your fully has made us slave, and just steps to cash and blue. You love us on the visor, how you're on the road to find her. Egg finder, egg finder, egg finder, egg finder, egg finder, egg finder, egg finder. Here's another one about me and my dad.
So, Rob, what's the story behind the egg finder?
My youngest brother Alex, my mum died before he was 1 year old. And he had 4 older brothers and 1 older sister, and our dad. He was a very eccentric little toddler. And our garden got overrun because everyone was depressed because our mum died. And like we had a chicken coop, but it just sort of got like just no one was looking after it. No one was doing any gardening for a few years. And then he came in one morning at breakfast and he'd found these huge nests with about 30 eggs in them underneath bushes, and he showed me one once. We sort of crawled in under a honeysuckle bush down this sort of tunnel. Then there was like a nest with about 30 eggs in it that had been there for a few years, and sort of like beams of light hitting it. It was pretty impressive. And then he found a few nests like that, like about three or four nests like that, like when he was about 2 years old. And then one morning he came into the breakfast room where we were all having breakfast, really excited, and went, "Guess what? I'm the egg finder! I'm the egg finder!" And we went, "Yes, you are. You are the egg finder."
How old was he, mate? He was 2.
Yeah, it was when he was a toddler. He's a very eccentric little toddler because of the circumstances. He's now married to an English lady. He's a chef in England, down south of England. He's about 35 now, the egg finder. And he's a really good chef, very good chef.
Makes a good omelette, I bet.
He worked in all the really richy places in Sydney. He never flipped burgers, just went straight to the richy places. And then he went to the richy places in England.
Southern England, yeah.
Yeah, so, he's really good. I think he's a sous chef now, like second in command, kind of. Okay, here's another one by me and my dad. It's called I Get Lost in Darkest Night. face there is a frown. It's that I most need. I get lost in darkest night. Always know your Jesus, so yeah, wants to get down. Then we thought of your front door in mind. I long to put my heart in. When we talk inside the door, your love's bound to zone. So linger along on a country song about a beautiful girl and a sad old clown. Wondering why my broken ties and something's up that I'm beating down. Sharing a clue in my Bobby's room, my face was really the look of fright. Reaching around in my hometown and I get lost in darkest night. Here's one, he's in Autumn Lodge now. We wrote this one since he's been in Autumn Lodge. He's been in there for 3 years. Can't walk, it's bedridden. Okay. It's called Beard Oil Blues. Well, in my beard, nicer to kiss. When I'm nicer to kiss, I'll be more easily chilled. Well, in my beard, I'll be more easily chilled. When I'm more easily chilled, I will not wake up blue. There's nothing more cheering than oil in your beard. And oil in my beard. I think I got loose.
Yeah, that was.
That's, yeah, 3 by me and my
Pity you
dad.
haven't got a camera that can go around
done
now.
well.
Just
Thanks,
ask
lads.
everybody what was the biggest mental thing and then the biggest physical thing of their year. Be interesting to hear what
right.
people say.
Mm.
Be interesting.
All right. Now, I just ask around, Paul or Brian. No, doesn't don't feel obliged. All right. Well, before you do, I'm just going to advertise the Saturday morning market here this week. Every Saturday, at Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. We've also got Christmas photos this week on Saturday between 11 and 2, and Donna Davidson's doing those, and Kay Smith's done a big Christmas mural on a sheet, so that'll be a backdrop for it. $10. You just need to book in. $10 there, and the money goes to Kalora House aged care retirement village thing home. So it's a fundraiser for that. And then, so that's from 11 till 2, the market's from 8:30 till 12:30, and that's every Saturday. But then the big one is Fiore Musicali, the Armadale Chamber Choir and Ensembles playing here at 3 o'clock. Tickets are $30, concession available on the door. Tickets also at trybooking.com/BVFEX. And they're doing a concert of chorale and instrumental music for the Christmas season, featuring Sophia Debus, Bieber, not Justin Bieber, Rosary Sonata No. 3, The Nativity. So that should be wonderful, because last time they were here was May this year, and they rocked the place in a singing kind of way. The whole hall here's got amazing acoustics. And then, and wait, there's more. Beard, talking about oil in your beard, which I could probably do with. We've got the Big Hairy Bush Dance Band here coming on the 14th of January, 7 p.m. For the Guyra Lamb and Potato Bush Dance. So, tickets are available from here or online from Eventbrite. Adults 15, children 10, and a family of 4 is $40. So there'll be food available on the night as well. So, and then also the 4th of March, I think it's the 4th or it's the 3rd of March, the Woodford Folk Festival, they have every year a festival of small halls tour, which they take a couple of artists from Woodford and they take them out through small halls. So they'll be playing here on a Thursday night as well. So that'll be also fantastic. With that, I would like to invite Paul Wood up. Yeah.
Thanks, James.
You're welcome. Thank you.
These are the songs from the South, where my melancholy heart is. This is a song by the Stanley Brothers. These songs reflect the times of the people in that area that were sort of deprived of the American dream, and their lives were hard and sad, and these are the songs that I sort of relate to. This one's by a bluegrass ensemble called the Stanley Brothers, two brothers, Carter and Ralph, written by Carter Stanley, and it's a sort of reflection on the sadness of country boys leaving home, or what we lose in life or something like this. I left my old home to ramble this country. My mother and dad said, son, don't go wrong. Remember that God will always watch over you, and we will be waiting for you here at home. Son, don't go astray, is what they both told me. Remember that love, for God can be found. and now they're both gone. This letter just told me 4 years they've been dead. The fields have turned brown. For many long year I travelled in sorrow, no thought of the day when I would return. Now as I go home and find no one waiting, the price I had paid to live and to learn. Son, don't go astray, is what they both told me. Remember that love, for God can be found. And now they're both gone, this letter just told me 4 years they've been dead, the fields have turned brown. 4 years they've been dead, the fields have turned brown.
Yeah, great. That's fantastic. I love it. Yeah, what we got? Like we've had Australian original, we've had South, we've had New Zealand and
Maybe I
French.
should just quickly read this last thing that Les wrote, because it relates to everything tonight.
Yeah.
I wrote it down. I was going to do it. All the contour of themes tonight
Yeah.
have gone towards Les's last ditty. This really made me, just a thought too. I wrote these things down. I'll do a few of these next year or in eternity. The prisoner paced so many metres in the prison yard each day. Halfway through his sentence he calculated he'd have walked from Paris to Vladivostok. When it came to then swimming the Pacific, each morning standing in the cell block shower, the task of measure was beyond him. That's my thoughts. I have a book where I put all these strange events. Les this must be one of the last poems he wrote, really, even though he had a few more years to live beyond that point of publication, 2002. But it is a farewell poem. It's funny. It's not cinematic. The meaning of existence. Everything except language knows the meaning of existence. Trees, planets, rivers, time know nothing else. They express it moment by moment as the universe. Even this, full of a body, lives it in part and would have full dignity within it, but for the ignorant freedom of my talking mind. Funny, that's funny. Yeah.
I'm going to read to you now out of Robust, Ribald and Rude Verse. So, in Australia, selected and annotated by Bill Wannon.
How do you spell Wannon?
W-A-N-N-A-N.
That's right. I'll look him up, see what they say.
This is an anonymous, called Little Dog Ben. He tried to track it down, but he couldn't get much of it here, so he's got one verse and one chorus. I had a little dog and his name was Ben. He had 9 arseholes, bloody near 10, and from morning's glimmer to evening's gloom, he shat and he shat all around the room. Oh, he shat and he shat and he shat and he shat and he shat all around the room. 9 arseholes, so
Ten, maybe 10.
Oh dear.
all right, Bullocky Bill. As I came down Talbingo Hill, I heard a maiden cry, "There goes old Bullocky Bill, he's bound for Gundagai." A better poor old bugger never cracked an honest crust. A tougher poor old bugger never drug a whip through dust. His team got bogged on 5 Mile Creek. Bill Ashton swore and cried, "If Nobby don't get me out of this, I'll tattoo his bloody hide." But Nobby strained and broke the yoke and poked the leader's eye. Then the dog shat in the tucker box 5 miles from Gundagai. And this, there once was a farmer. It's an anonymous, another one, anonymous World War II song. There once was a farmer who lived by a school. That jolly young farmer played with his toupee in the outhouse, and the lady next door, you could see by her actions that she was a haughty kind of person. She'd sew and she'd knit while the boys in the cowshed were shoveling up shavings and sawdust, or baling the herds and pelting each other with freshly dropped turtle eggs, etc., etc., etc. And then Percy the poet, or P.F. Collins, wrote The Power of a Banana, one of the last of Australia's street ballad hawkers. Percy the poet wrote and sold his broadside ditties in Sydney during the 1920s and 1930s. Dr. Russell Ward has pointed out that some of these compositions passed into oral tradition, and variants have been collected in North Queensland and Victoria. His best known ballads were The Death of Les Darcy and Farlap. It's got a chorus in it. Adam and Eve in the garden sat. They had no cause to hurry, but something in the mind of Eve caused her to sigh and worry. When she got up and walked about as handsome as Diana, then Adam said to her, "My dear, do have a ripe banana. Banana, banana, ripe and sweet banana. If your wife is cross with you, just give her a banana." They were as happy as could be and free from earthly care. They were allowed to eat all fruits except one apple rare. But the devil came just like a snake, some say like a goanna. Then Adam ate the apple rare and Eve had a banana. Banana, banana, ripe and sweet banana. If your wife is cross with you, just give her a banana. A friend of mine 2 years ago met a lovely girl. Her golden hair and large blue eyes would fascinate an earl. She's now his wife and happy too. Her name it is Joanna. She's proud of him. Why so? Because he gave her a banana. All right. So yeah, robust, ribald, and rude verse, and to finish off the night, just a bit find out where it is. Well, this was something I wrote a day ago. Two days ago. It wasn't yesterday, or no, it was early morning. So I sit down and I do my yoga, my meditation, my yoga, and sometimes I just start to write halfway through that. There are crystals in my head, and they begin to vibrate. When I love from the heart and fear not hate, there are crystals in my brain in a place called the pineal, emitting bioluminescent light, depending upon how I feel. It's a crystal little gland that it's a little bit phallic, and the visions that I get from it are often psychedelic. My ego disappears and begins to unravel when my pineal crystals vibrate. I channel an astral travel, Accessing a consciousness of the universal mind, holographic messages which transcend space and time, makes it possible to have a laugh and a joyful attitude, which is called universal acceptance through gratitude. The crystals in my head emit a bioluminescent light when my brain waves are in theta and I'm in the darkest night. I breathe deep in and out until I reach transcendent states of consciousness from breath work when my pineal gland vibrates. My mind leaves my body and then begins to travel free. Unpolluted lungs release endogenous DMT, and my Kundalini rises and shoots out the top of my head, alive but disassociated, and then my ego's dead. It's something like when you, I don't know if you know much about breath work, you obviously do, hyperventilation, kind of almost stuff where you build up the oxygen and also the carbon dioxide in your brain. And then you squeeze your three main banders, the one in your anus, and pull your anus up through your neck, and your one here, and then this one here, and then you squeeze everything, and your Kundalini rises. And you kind of lose consciousness. Anyway, that's something I teach as well in my yoga classes occasionally, but I don't often. It's just something I do when I can, I'll tell you more about it when the video's off. Alright, one final one before I call it a night. Question everything. Question everything. Don't blindly believe. Hearsay is not truth, but is here to deceive. The unquestioning followers resigned to fate like sheep led to a slaughter by a mandate. Question everything until reality hurts by following first principles and do your research. The faithful believing without evidence of truth are self-deceiving, which is a kind of self-abuse. Question everything. Stand up for the fact. Arguing from analogy and fake reasoning is cracked. Peer-reviewed science and double-blind studies are factual compared to the opinions of buddies. Question everything. There's no need to fit in to socially accepted norms which should be in a bin, as fitting in is for people who are too weak-minded, too lazy to research, and are meek. Question everything. Don't be stuffed over like a pitch-slapped dog named Rover, swallowing turds from the mass media, the elitists with the propagandists' crap that they feed you. And so that's it. Here from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. We'll be back here next Wednesday night and with more, and Saturday with the market, Saturday afternoon with Fiore Musicali. Thank you everyone for coming. Don't forget, if you're out there in Facebook land, give it a like, a thumbs up, subscribe on YouTube as well, and we'll see you all later. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.